Warning: this podcast contains graphic content. Trigger warnings include descriptions of violence, torture, murder, and rape. Some episodes may include offenses against children. Please listen with caution, as this podcast is not meant for everyone. It was September 26th, 2001, a cool evening in the district of Sooke, BC, when 17-year-old Jesokah Adkens took her 6-month-old German Shepherd puppy named Daphne out to pee for the last time, before heading over to a friend's house for supper. Around 9:30 p.m., Jesokah told her friends that she had to go home to feed her puppy. She walked to the bus station nearby, and from there, she vanished without a trace. I'm Shanda, and every week I'll take you through a deep dive into the dark shadows of true crime while sipping on our cup of joe. The story I'm about to tell you today is truly a mysterious one. For the episode, I've made an iced coffee because it's honestly never too cold for one. I love a good iced coffee. I had ordered these really good ski pant and winter jacket set from the States, and I was really hoping that they would come in time before we go ice fishing. And my boyfriend and we ice fish quite regularly in the winter, so I decided to splurge and bought this expensive pair, which turns out to be a funny story because in my sizes on Black Friday, they were sold out of the gray one, and the only other ones they had was either camo or red, and I'm really not a camo girl, so I had to go with the red. But now I have the exact matching snowsuit to my boyfriend. So we're gonna look so silly, but it's gonna be great. But yes, I was hoping that they would show up, but with Canada Post's month-long strike, I don't know if they'll be here in time, but I'm hoping they come tomorrow. It will probably be the last day of delivery before Christmas. And so I'm recording this early, as I will be in the woods. My family rented cabins for Christmas, and we're going to be playing board games and ice fishing, and there is not the tiniest bit of service down there. So it's actually Sunday, but I hope you have a wonderful Christmas if you do celebrate, and if not, I wish you happy holidays. Now, for those of you that are new, I post weekly photos on Instagram that go along with every episode, and you can follow me at missing.murder.macchiatos. I also have it linked in the description below. And please don't forget to follow, share with your besties so that I can continue to make content and spread awareness about these cases. But enough about me. Let's dive in. This is Missing, Murdered, and Macchiatos. Jesokah Adkens was born on May 5th, 1984, to Clayton and Jocelyn Adkens. She was the middle child and had 2 brothers, one older and one younger. Her family lived in the small community of Sooke, BC, which is about a 45-minute drive west of Victoria on Vancouver Island. In 2001, the population was almost 9,000 people. Sooke's motto is, "Where the rainforest meets the sea." It's known for its vast, dense forest and mild climate. For those of you that have seen the movie Twilight, think that kind of weather. Forks, Washington is not too far away. In 2001, Jesokah was a happy, popular, and outgoing 17-year-old. And although she had been having difficulties navigating the uniformed school system, she was determined to stick to it. This case was difficult to research, as there is not a lot of information on the internet about Jesokah Adkens, and her family has spoken with the media saying they no longer want to be contacted about this case. But I truly believe that every person deserves their own episode to tell their story. So I'm going to do my best. But what I could gather from the internet, she had started attending the Edward Milne Community School and had been meeting with a guidance counselor. The counselor had broken some rules and worked with teachers to be flexible with Jesokah. The counselor had talked to Jesokah about becoming a nurse and tried everything to help her succeed and fit into classes. It seemed as though she had been having difficulties with the structure of schools. The 9 to 3, the bells telling you when to switch classes, asking to use the washroom, sitting in a desk, and listening to a monotone teacher for hours on end. She was an active, energetic teen that wanted to be doing things. In her spare time, she loved hanging out with friends and going to parties, so much so that she decided she no longer wanted to live in her parents' house and follow their rules. On August 1st, 2001, she moved out of her parents' house and into a small apartment with a roommate and her new German Shepherd puppy named Daphne, while still maintaining a good relationship with her parents and 2 brothers who lived a few blocks away back at the family home. This was the first time that she had been really living on her own, although starting when she was 14 years old, she had left home because she wanted to party and be with her friends all the time. Her father described Jesokah as a troubled teen. He and her mother supported Jesokah's move and were hopeful that once living on her own, she would turn her life around. After she moved, she would call her parents almost every day to check in. Jesokah was well known around Sooke and Port Renfrew, and frequently hung out with a crew that called themselves the Skids. This group would often sit under the trees and hang out with the older, homeless men, who would allegedly supply alcohol and drugs and sometimes take advantage of the younger teens. She was also known in the past to hitchhike between Sooke, Victoria, and Port Renfrew. During this time, she was on probation and required to have regular meetings with her probation officer. Now, I couldn't find why she was on probation, but I assume it had something to do with her drinking and doing drugs. On September 26, 2001, Jesokah had put on a Doors t-shirt, which is a rock band from the late 60s, dark blue jeans, black running shoes, and a bomber-style black jacket. She let her 6-month-old German Shepherd puppy named Daphne outside one last time and told her she would be home soon to feed her supper. She then went over to her friend's trailer. Now, I'm not sure how she got there, if she took the bus or if she walked, but it would only have been about a 2-kilometer walk, which takes about 20 minutes. There was a few more friends there. They had a great time and enjoyed their supper. At about 9:30 p.m., Jesokah told the group that she needed to go home to feed her puppy. She said her goodbyes and left. The night would have been quiet and dark while Jesokah walked from her friend's house to the corner of Sooke Road and Addlemore Road to catch the bus home. There were no streetlights at this stop, and it was a low-traffic area at this time of night. She only lived about 20 minutes away, but that's a far walk for a lone female at night. It was known in Sooke that there could be a fairly long wait in between buses, and Jesokah was known to hitchhike, even though her parents had warned her about the dangers. She had recently hitchhiked from a bus stop in front of the Forest Lumber Mill while waiting for a bus. Thursday came and went, and Jesokah's parents noticed that she didn't call all day, and they hadn't talked to her since Wednesday. They brushed it off and assumed that she must have been busy hanging out with friends. But when Friday evening came and went without hearing from their daughter, her mother Jocelyn decided she would swing by Jesokah's place and see what's going on, thinking that maybe she just didn't want to talk to them. So Jocelyn heads over the few blocks to Jesokah's apartment and knocks on the door, but there was no answer and no one was home. Not too worried about it, thinking that Jesokah is probably just out partying with her friends, Jocelyn heads back home and decides she'll just keep calling. The next day, Saturday, when Jocelyn calls, Jesokah's roommate answers the phone. Jocelyn asks to talk to Jesokah, and the roommate tells her that Jesokah hadn't been home since Wednesday and that she has been taking care of the puppy ever since. This immediately raised red flags for her parents, Clayton and Jocelyn. They were certain that Jesokah would have contacted them and asked them to watch the dog if she had planned on going somewhere for a few days, just like she had done a few times before. They decided to report Jesokah missing to the local Sooke RCMP. At the time Jesokah went missing, she was described as a petite 5'5" female, approximately 88 to 100 pounds, striking blue eyes, and long, straight, blonde hair, wearing the Doors t-shirt, dark blue jeans, black running shoes, and a bomber-style black jacket. Police immediately suspected foul play when they noticed she had left behind her ID, backpack, and her puppy Daphne. They were also able to access her banking account and noticed that Jesokah had received an online deposit of income assistance benefits on the Wednesday she had disappeared, and her account had been untouched since. If somebody was going to up and leave on their own free will, it's highly likely that they would take their money, even if that means withdrawing the funds and leaving the bank card behind. Police started interviewing many people, including her parents, the roommate, the friend's house she left the night she went missing, and the bus driver who ended up not being able to identify her. This may or may not be significant information, as I'm sure the bus driver had seen so many faces since, but this could also support the chances that she had hitchhiked home instead, or something happened to her before the bus showed up to the bus stop on Sooke and Idlemore Road. The RCMP conducted searches of the close-by forested area from Sooke to Port Renfrew, which resulted in no findings, so they called in more crews, including a tracking dog, a helicopter, a dive team to search the Sooke River Bridge and diversion dam, and even a conservation officer in case Jesokah had been attacked by a bear, wolf, or cougar. One thing to remember is that British Columbia is known for its dense forest, mountainous land, and plentiful trees. Out of the entire province, 64% of it is dense forest made up of pine, spruce, and fir trees, which are huge. What makes this province stunning and magical also makes it a great place to hide things that you never want to be found. They even consulted with psychics, as they would take any information that would lead them to bring Jesokah home. The guidance counselor at Edward Milne Community School remembered students gathering in the school telling teachers that they were leaving to go look for Jesokah. Over the next 2 years, they hung up and handed out thousands of missing persons posters on the south side of Vancouver Island, even reaching over to Kelowna on the mainland. The RCMP received over 300 tips in the first month, had a few persons of interest, but no actual suspects. Officers even flew to a remote cabin that Jesokah had been known to visit. However, upon arrival, the cabin was empty and it appeared that no one had been visiting recently. Police learned that Jesokah and her boyfriend had either gotten into an argument or broken up the week that she went missing, but according to her parents, that wasn't uncommon for them. She had also apparently quit doing drugs prior to her going missing, but was known to owe a drug dealer named No-Nose $80 for cocaine. She had told her friend that she was going to pay him off. People described this drug dealer as a terrible person, and he actually died in another province a few years later. So if he was involved, we may never know the answer to bringing Jesokah home. In November of 2001, the Missing Child Society of Canada offered a $10,000 reward for any information leading to an arrest in Jesokah's case. They were also encouraging those in the area that had a bad experience hitchhiking to come forward to RCMP. As Jesokah's case faded out of the media, Crime Stoppers released a reenactment of Jesokah's disappearance on CHTV in hopes of bringing attention back to her case. It was still early in the investigation, and police were hopeful that someone would come forward with some kind of information. In early to mid-December, about 2.5 months after Jesokah disappeared from the bus stop in Sooke, a 19-year-old female was hitchhiking along Sooke Road when she was picked up by a man in a vehicle. He then dropped her off outside of town on a logging road, leaving her stranded on a cold night. Luckily, she was found the next morning, visibly shaken, weak, and on the verge of hypothermia. A few days later, police arrested a man sleeping in his car that matched the description. He was questioned, and everyone was wondering if the two cases were linked. Months continue to go by, and the family is starting to give up hope that they would ever find out what happened to Jesokah. On May 5th, 2002, Jesokah's 18th birthday, students and staff organized a barbecue fundraiser to raise more money for searches. Everyone that attended was given a yellow ribbon to remember her and encourage them to continue telling her story. Another year passed, and her parents were certain someone had taken Jesokah's life. If she was out there, she would have contacted them by now. They begged for someone to come forward so they could lay their daughter to rest and have some sort of closure. In the 1.5 years since Jesokah's disappearance, police had given 6 different men lie detector tests while continuing their investigation. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about lie detector tests, and I'm not an expert, but in my opinion, there's a reason they're not admissible in court, and I personally feel like people can pass them if they want to and know how. Now, if you've ever listened to the podcast called Real Life, Real Crime, Woody Overton tells stories about cases that he's worked in the past, and he does perform many polygraph tests. I'm almost certain that he would bet on his life that he could and would catch you in a lie. I guess that's why we leave it up to the experts. In February of 2002, businesses in Sooke banded together saying that they would add $15,000 to the $10,000 of the Missing Child Society of Canada, while another businessman raised $5,000 to add, making the total $30,000. By the 2-year anniversary of Jesokah's disappearance, her friends and family had arranged a memorial to set up a sign about the missing teen by the bus stop that she had disappeared from. It said, quote, "In memory of our good friend Jesokah," unquote. The reward was raised from $30,000 to $32,000, and her parents were truly struggling with the stress of not knowing. Her father, Clayton, felt frustrated, depressed, and confused, causing him to take a month off of work as a trucker, as well as her mother, Jocelyn, took a month off of work as a nurse caring for the elderly. In 2006, posters were still being handed out, and the next year, in 2007, Victoria's Serious Crimes Unit offered up another $10,000 reward, and a garden was planted by the bus stop that Jesokah's mother would regularly tend to honor her daughter. A friend of Jesokah's came forward, saying that there was a lady named Polly that attended every single one of Jesokah's searches, and for years Jesokah's friends and family did not know that she was at the trailer for dinner that night that Jesokah had went missing, and she was one of the last people to see her. When this friend found out and confronted Polly about it, she had left the group and has never been heard from since. This doesn't make her guilty in any way. It could just be that she didn't mention it to begin with and felt that it was too late to bring up. Then once she was confronted, she was embarrassed and avoided everyone instead of facing the truth. Not everyone has bad intentions. But on the other side of that, maybe she does have information and was threatened or whatever. We just don't know all of the facts, as police in Canada love keeping things out of the public. There are a couple unconfirmed theories about what happened to Jesokah. One being that a man Jesokah used to house clean for, and another man that owned a marina in Sooke, allegedly picked Jesokah up from the bus stop, killed her, and then took a boat out to the JDF Strait and dumped her body. The JDF stands for the Juan de Fuca and is the body of water separating the southern tip of Vancouver Island and the northern part of western Washington state, ultimately connecting to the ocean. It's unknown if police had looked into this theory or if there's any truth to this theory. Over the next decade, investigators followed hundreds of leads, even checking other cases for any potential links and continuing to conduct interviews, but it has appeared that Jesokah had vanished without a trace. Despite all of their efforts, there have been no signs of Jesokah ever since she vanished. Her parents have struggled with wanting to move away from the painful reminders of Jesokah's disappearance, but also hanging on to hope that their daughter would one day come home. In 2017, they came forward saying that they no longer wanted to be contacted about Jesokah's case from the public. It appeared that they are having difficulties moving on with life when this wound keeps being reopened. Her father said in an interview that he would give anything to know the truth of what happened to his daughter, and quote, "Being a parent of a missing child is to be in a constant state of limbo. You agree to talk about your daughter's case in hopes that someone somewhere will come forward and tell you where she is. But to talk about her takes you back to that dark, deep hole again." Unquote. Her mother said, quote, "You want to stay in the same house and never move away in case they walk down the driveway once again, but you don't want to be here because everything you see brings it all back." Unquote. If you have any information you would like to report, please contact the Vancouver Island Integrated Major Crime Unit tip line at 250-380-6211. And remember, if you'd like to remain anonymous, you can contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477, or you can report it online at www.bccrimestoppers.com. If you have any thoughts, insights, or theories about the Jesokah Adkens case, I'd love to hear from you. You can follow me on Instagram at missing.murdered.macchiatos. I post weekly photos, and I also have it linked below because I know it is a typeful. You never know who has information that might lead to an arrest in this case, so please don't forget to like, follow, and share with your besties so I can continue making content and spreading awareness about these cases. Remember that every cup of coffee can be a moment of connection and conversation, so let's keep these discussions alive. And you can join me next Thursday as we dive into another chilling tale, because the truth is often darker than we imagine. Until then, stay curious, stay safe, and keep sipping. I'm Shanda, and this is Missing, Murdered, and Macchiatos. Bye for now.